Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on Stop Competing on Price, how to confidently answer the what's your hourly rate question. Before we even get started into that, I just want to acknowledge you for really taking the time from working busily in your practice and joining us here to be able to work on your business. I believe that anytime you step away from doing that immediate work that is technical focused and really taking time out to be training, to gaining insights, to developing your knowledge and skill set, it is an advanced move, and want to just acknowledge you for really taking that time here and joining us today. What I have seen is that with clients, and maybe you do this too, one of the first things that we ask of people is, what's your hourly rate? I'm going to say answering that too soon is going to affect your bank account. It can be a very, very costly mistake. And I'm going to show you a better way to approach that when it comes up today. Steve, before we even go any further, go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Sure, Loren, I would love to. So my name is Steve Fogelman, and as you can see, there's a relationship with the last names. Loren and I have been married for many years, and we've been working together for quite a few of those years together. And I'm a therapist turned business coach. And with Loren, I'm going to be presenting the workshop today. I'll be working the chat, working the polls. And if you have any questions for Loren, please go ahead and put those into the chat, and I'll be sure to get those questions over to her. Thanks, Loren. Back to you.
A little bit about me is I'm a sports psychologist turned business coach. I focus primarily on accounting professionals, how to be able to price your services so you no longer feel like a slave to your business. What I have seen is that between athletes and growth-minded accounting professionals, there's so many similarities, and there are three primary differences. The first one is we wear slightly different uniforms than athletes do. Number two is we're going for different numbers than athletes are aiming for. And number three is right from the get-go at Pee-wees, athletes are having someone else that's mentoring them, coaching them, training them to be able to be on the fast path to really reaching their peak performance. As accounting professionals, business owners, we tend to be a little bit more fiercely independent. We know what we want, but we sometimes don't like asking for help, or we want to figure it out ourselves. Therefore, yes, we can achieve those goals that we want for ourselves. However, because we're doing it ourselves, it might take a little bit longer to get there. From 2018 to 2021, I have been listed as one of the top 22 business coaches by HubSpot, and that is my Amazon #1 bestseller, The Success Solution. If you are an accounting professional and you find that your potential clients can't figure out why they ought to work with you compared to somebody else, they blend in, you don't really confidently communicate your value, as a result, you end up competing on your rates and everything like that, then you are absolutely in the right place. What I've seen is there's a domino effect. Basically, someone reaches out to you, they ask you, what's your hourly rate? And then you have that immediate response of telling them what your prices are. Once you do that, then they start thinking about things in their head. Is it within that range that they had? Is it maybe too high, too low? And basically, one thing kind of is like playing dominoes. It just sets off this whole series of different things, some of which are obvious to us and some of which are hidden and going on behind the scenes. But I want to show you how to be able to win at the domino effect. What we're going to cover today is the rate question. Then we're going to go into what's behind that question. And we're going to wrap up with a confident response where I'll go ahead and share a free resource with you there as well. I will absolutely give you as much as I possibly can during our time together today. If you'd like to talk further, learn more, I'll give you an opportunity as to how to be able to set that up as well.
So Loren, what are the steps to increase income without working additional hours?
Well, this is actually my 5-step system that I've created that I work with accounting professionals on how to be able to increase your income without feeling like a slave to your business. If you just follow these 5 steps, you will absolutely be earning more without having to sacrifice your personal time. But I just want to give you a review of each of them really quickly. Number 1 is ideal client. Who is it that you work best with, that you have synergy or chemistry with? They are like a dream. They respect you. They value what you have to say. They follow through with your recommendations. They bring questions to the table. Maybe some of those things are what you see in an ideal client. However, I just want to say, trying to work with everyone is something that becomes costly in the long run. Yes, in the beginning, you might need clients to be able to get some momentum and cash flow going. However, bringing on non-ideal clients ends up being frustrating. They give you headaches. They don't really follow through with what you recommend. They're time consuming, and they might actually challenge your rates. Therefore, I'm just going to say, you don't need to work with everybody. You don't want to tolerate non-ideal clients for much longer than you want to. And I would rather you, right from the get-go, be able to cherry pick your clients instead of thinking that anybody that's going to pay your monthly bill or to sign on with you and become a client. It costs you in the long run. Number 2 is communicating your value. That is part of what we're going to touch on slightly today, but really about how to be able to have clients see you as the go-to person, the person that they need to be able to help them with that thing that they've been dealing with, whether it is a problem that they have or something that they want to achieve. But how do you communicate value? And being able to do that helps you start to move away from being competitive pricing, where they're focusing on you as a technician in the accounting field as opposed to an expert. Number 3 is packaging your services. That is where you start to bundle certain services together in order to meet your specific client's needs. We will touch on that today in the 3rd section that we're going into in the training. Number 4, which is what we're taking a deep dive into today, is the value pricing part, really understanding the value in order to start separating fees from time. And then number 5 is consultation mastery, because most of us, we have great technical skills at what we do. However, we really don't understand the consultation and the sales piece. It's something that was never taught to us during our education or our training. Therefore, there's actually a different way to be able to enroll high value clients than when you're focusing on being seen as a commodity or a technician and being price competitive. So those are the 5 steps right there. Ideal client, communicate your value, package your services, value pricing, and consultation mastery. If you go ahead and put those in, you will absolutely be earning more without having to be able to trade your personal time for growing your bank account.
So Loren, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to be looking at is the rate question, but we do have 4 polls that we're going to be doing today. And
we actually only have 3 polls today.
We actually have 3 polls. We must have lost a poll.
Yep.
Okay. So how do you charge your clients? Is it hourly rate, flat fee, or value pricing? Go ahead and put your answers into the chat. And we will, if you have any questions, also go ahead and put those into the chat, and I will be sure to get those questions over to Loren. Mm-hmm. And looks like as we speak, we are gaining, we're going to close it in just a few seconds.
Yep, almost everybody's answered. We'll just wait, let's say 5 more seconds.
Okay, and once again, like I said, if you have any questions for Loren, please put them in the chat. And Kim did send a question about whether or not this is going to be recorded, and she can get it at a further date because she's got disruptions in her family's household.
I am recording it, and if it's good, I'll share the recording with you.
Okay, there you go. You heard it. So on our poll, hourly rate is 50%, a flat fee is 29%, and the value price is 21%. Thanks for that. Mm-hmm. So Loren, you talk about an anchor, like we're showing here. What do you want to do first before sharing your rates?
Well, the reason that I have an anchor here with a price tag on it is based on my research in neuroscience. It's how our brains work. When you are talking with a client and they're asking about your rates, whatever number you give them first, even if it is a random number that is totally irrelevant to pricing, you could pick the number off of the back of someone's football jersey, whatever number that person hears first, and this applies to all of us, we're going to be comparing your rates to that number that you threw out first. Therefore, you want to be really, really careful and strategic about what you say first. If you are first giving some type of low number, then anything else that you say after that, in their mind, is going to be compared as being more expensive. Whereas if you give them a really high number, and then you give them what your fee is going to be, then your fees are going to be feeling like a deal. And as you know, most people enjoy a deal. Therefore, really think about what it is that you want to go ahead and throw out as that first number, because they're going to be comparing everything else to that first number that they hear. If it's a low number and everything else is higher, they're going to be feeling that it's more expensive. They might be wondering why. If you throw out a really high number and then everything else is lower, they'll feel like they are giving a deal. It's actually something that we were talking about just this morning with my business coaching clients in our group mastermind call, is exactly about this anchoring effect and what some of the numbers are that you want to be sharing before you go ahead and share your price, so that they feel that your rates are actually something that is great, worthwhile, and wanting to move forward.
So when you share your rates too quickly, it really overlooks other critical factors. What are some of the missing pieces?
Well, to think about when you're just throwing out an hourly rate or a fixed fee, whichever it might be for you, there's no context behind it. They have no way to really understand where it fits into everything. And I want to give you an example as to how higher rates can actually be less costly. Let's talk about Susan and David. Susan just went ahead and she left her 9-to-5 because she's been growing her accounting practice as a side hustle. She has enough clients now to be able to quit her main job and really devote everything to her accounting practice. Well, in her main job, she was paid $35 an hour for her services. Therefore, she is now setting her fees for accounting services as an hourly rate of $50 an hour. She thinks that getting $50 an hour is fantastic because she's comparing her rates to what she was paid for as an employee. She's not taking into consideration business expenses or taxation as a business owner as opposed to employee. None of that is coming into play. Just the number of $50 an hour is great. Now, this client comes to her, and this client is coming to her because they asked about her hourly rate. She said it was $50. And it takes about 6 hours for her to do this client work because of the fact that she's relatively new to some of these things with this client's industry. She is just getting started, so she might not have all the different types of apps or software in place to be able to make things faster. And she tends to be a perfectionist. So there are things that she doubles and even triple checks. As a result, this client is going to be paying $300 a month for her services, $50 an hour, 6 hours a month of work on average. It'll be a $300 a month bill. Now, say that this same exact client goes ahead and decides to work with David. Well, David's been in practice for about 5 years now. He loves technology. He has a lot of apps already installed. He's been doing this. He has industry-specific knowledge. However, his hourly rate is $75 an hour. And because of the fact that he has all these other things in place and he's very, very efficient, it's going to only take him 3 hours to do the same work that it was taking Sue 6 hours to do. That means that the hourly bill for this new client with David is going to be $225 a month. So just saying an hourly rate is so out of context. It doesn't take anything else into account. And it is actually possible to be working with someone who's charging 25% more and actually be paying a lower monthly invoice because of the fact that that person has more expertise, they have more technology in place, and as a result, they're doing the work a lot faster. So think about that when, first of all, the main thing to think about here, which is kind of hidden, but I want to bring it out, is your hourly rate as you go ahead and add in more technology and you gain expertise, it punishes you because David ought to be earning more money on this new client than Susan is. So it actually is something that is not working in your favor as you continue to get expertise and be able to bring more technology into your practice.
So let's move forward, Loren. So what's really behind the question? And before we do that, we're going to launch our next poll, which is rate your pricing confidence. And we're just waiting for that to pop up right now. And there we go. So I'm highly satisfied with my rates. I'm afraid to raise my rates. I get paid a little and I work a lot. And if we have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat section. I do have a question, actually a comment from Kim, that she was a mixture of hourly and flat fee, but now she's changing to value pricing and she loves it, which is great. And then sometimes, Loren, people want to know a range of what the fees would be. How would I answer that?
They want to know what a range of fees would be.
Yes.
I think, first of all, it has to do with what type of services that we're talking about, because you're going to be charging different things for different types of services. But one of the things that I do encourage you to do is to offer packages. Therefore, you might be giving a client 3 options, and then they're deciding on what will be the best way to work with you and move forward. And it's not just about offering one fee. So that's part of why I really encourage packages. I will go a little bit more into that in the 3rd section today. But this way you can be having something for those price sensitive clients. You'll be having options for the majority of clients. And then there are always those clients that want the bells and whistles or additional complexities. And there's pricing that is for them as well. So that would be what I suggest. And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll.
Let me just go through it real quick. Afraid to raise my rate, 69%. Paid a little and work a lot.
6%.
No, 69%.
No, you're right. I apologize.
Paid a little and work a lot, 25%. And I'm highly satisfied with my rates is 6%.
Thank you.
Now we can go ahead and close the poll.
Okay. Oh, and look at that. There was right there.
And there it is. So earlier you mentioned that people were taught to ask about an hourly rate. Let's talk about what's behind that hourly rate question.
Well, I think culturally we've been taught to ask about the hourly rate first, but that's not actually the question that they want to ask. They don't even know that there's a question that they want to be asking or how to phrase it. But the real question that they want to ask and what they need the answer to is, do you have the skill set to be able to do the work that they need? And also, can they trust you to deliver on your promises? That is really what they need to be understanding before the price even comes up, is if you have the skill set to deliver on what their needs are. And think about it. The majority of business owners don't really fully understand accounting or bookkeeping or any of those financial related parts of their business. They depend on you. And therefore, what they think they need, and when they come to you saying, oh, I need this, 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 and this, it might not actually be the exact information that will get them the insights that they are looking for. So it might be that what they want to achieve and what they think they need to achieve that are 2 different things. And if you've ever seen that for any of your clients, would love for you to put that in the chat, where they came with you telling you that I need this, 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 this. But then when you took time to find out what it is that they wanted to achieve, you realize that there was a much better way to approach it that would be more effective with them actually reaching those goals that they wanted for themselves. So once again, realize that behind the question is they need to know if you have the skill set, and also they need to figure out whether they can trust you to be able to deliver on your promises.
Loren, you mentioned the need to compare. How does that work when it comes to hiring an accounting firm?
Well, let's just look at vehicles for a minute. Is if we all were making decisions based on the same exact things that we want in a vehicle, we would all be driving the same exact car on the highway. But if you go on the highway, you know there are a wide variety of cars there, and they usually fit into three categories. There's the very basic cars, which might be the Geo Metro. Then the majority of cars are those mid-sized cars. And then you have the luxury cars like the SUV, like the Teslas. So this applies to your clients also. You're going to have some clients that really are going to just want the basics. They just want the essentials necessary to be able to make decisions regarding the financials. Or maybe they're not even really interested in knowing the financials. They just want it so that they can get their taxes done at the end of the year. So there's those basic clients that don't really want the extras or the insights. Then you have the majority of clients. They fit into that middle range. They are driving the Volvos, those mid-range cars, and they have and their needs say something about them, that they're growth-minded, that they do care about the financials in their business, and that you want to have an option that fits their needs as well. And then there's those Tesla drivers. And the Tesla drivers are looking for a certain type of driving experience, and they might care about the environment as well. So you want to be able to have something that really acknowledges and can accommodate those high-end clients, the premium clients, and be able to have an offering for them also. Because just think about it, the people that are going to be in a premium service are going to have different needs or looking for different outcomes than the people that are in that middle tier. And they are going to have different needs and want different outcomes than people that are in that very basic one. So just like there's different cars on the highway, you want to be actually having different options for your different types of clients. Well, one of the things to think about as you're considering value pricing and being able to step away from talking about an hourly rate is the client needs to believe that what they have to gain from working with you is greater than the fees that they're paying you. And this was something that actually came up earlier this morning in that group coaching call that I had with the accounting professionals that I work with. And we were talking about what is the value from a client's perspective. And then we were talking about, let's say, realtors. Well, there might be a realtor that's been doing their own books on the side, and they've been able to do it, but now they're getting busy. The economy is still strong. People are actually buying and selling real estate. They're getting busier because they've just been in business longer, and they haven't been keeping their books up to date. But they are taking maybe additional time on the weekends or late in the evening to get some things in their books, but they know that they're not where they ought to be. And so you as an accounting professional, think about what is it possible if you can free up a couple of hours of this person's time each week to be able to take their hands off of the bookkeeping and the accounting, and that you can take it on. If you even freed up 3 or 4 hours, would they potentially be able to close another sale on a house? And think about it. What is the commission on a house? It could easily, depending on where you live in the country or the world, be $20,000, if not more. So think about that for you. If you were able to take 3 hours of work off of their plate so that they can focus that time on business development for their real estate firm, then they might be able to actually close another deal a month, which would be another $20,000 a month or so in commissions. And that is really something to think about with this context of the client needs to believe that what they have to gain from working with you is greater than the fees that they are paying you. When I first started working with Devin, she was very competitive with her pricing. She actually had a pretty low hourly rate. However, Devin is unique to the accounting profession because Devin focuses on attorneys as her niche, but she's also a licensed practicing attorney in 4 states. However, she didn't bring that to the conversation necessarily when she was talking with clients and looking at pricing her services for them. Like I said, she had competitive hourly rates and they were probably on the low end. So what we did is we talked about exactly some of the things that we were discussing here already in this training, is how to be able to understand the value to a client. Well, all of her clients are attorneys. She does accounting for them and bookkeeping, and she also is an attorney herself. So she understands the inside of the business, and she also understands what it takes to be able to operate a practice. And then also how to be able to take them through the process of onboarding with her. So she's onboarding clients who value her as opposed to those price sensitive clients, and definitely making sure she doesn't end up with a headache client, because those headache clients stressed her out. And then how to be able to understand the value from the client's perspective. Like I said, with the real estate example just a moment ago, if that person could focus on bringing in one more house a month, then that increases their income by about $200,000 or so a year. So she was able to really focus on the value from the client's perspective and started to price her services accordingly. And that's how in May of last year, after everything shut down due to COVID, including a lot of law firms that were doing everything in-house and now have to figure out this virtual, she had someone coming to her that wanted to work with her, wanted her to do the accounting services for them. And she said that if she would have priced this client for a year's worth of services before being able to understand the value and the price was value, she would have charged $5,000 for the year's worth of services. Because she now had the ability to understand what they value, be able to have a conversation that allowed them to see how they gained by bringing her on, and that working with her would be an investment as opposed to a cost. She was able to offer them packages. She knew that they needed actually that diamond premium package. She enrolled them into a $40,000 service for the whole year. So she didn't do any additional work, but she was able to focus on value and emphasize that instead of the tasks and the technical part. By being able to do that, she earned $40,000 instead of $5,000, no additional work, and they were happy to pay her. In fact, they even paid her in full before they got started working with her. And just to think about, what would something like that do for you? How would that cash infusion into your practice make a difference? What it did for Devin is it allowed her to actually take one of her part-time bookkeepers that she had been wanting to bring on full-time and be able to then take that part-time bookkeeper and turn her into a full-time bookkeeper to be able to get more things off of her plate and onto this bookkeeper's plate, because now the bookkeeper had more capacity. So think about that. It's all about value. Having that influx of cash for her where they paid in full for the year allowed her to make some strategic moves in her business. And as a result of that, it got some things off of her plate, freed up her time to focus on higher value services.
So Loren, let's go ahead next, looking at the confident response. But let's also go ahead and launch our next poll. How do you charge your clients? Do you something I struggle with? There's room for improvement. I've mastered my message. And once again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat box and I will be sure to get those over. And I do have a private message that came through. What if I don't have an hourly rate? Then what's the best response?
If you don't have an hourly rate, you can actually let them know that, and we'll go more into that response actually in this section, but you can let them know that you don't feel, let me back up. You can let them know that what you offer is a free consultation where you get to hear more about them and what their needs are. And then from there, you're able to put something together that will be an exact fit for them. And that's when you can talk about it. And that if you know that you can't help them, you wouldn't talk about rates anyway. So that's what I would say is let them know that what you do is you offer a free consultation where you can find out more about their needs and their business.
And Loren, we did get a quick question from Joanne, if you have time to take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do packages still apply for clients who only receive occasional QuickBooks lessons or troubleshooting? For this, I charge by the hour.
You can absolutely put a package together for almost anything. You can look at the fact that if you're doing training or QuickBooks troubleshooting for people, you can have a package that is just the essentials where maybe you're doing this on a quarterly basis for them and they have access to you. You could have maybe another package where they are reaching out to you and you're doing troubleshooting for them on a monthly basis. And then you could have a third package where it actually goes deeper into the insights and some of the trainings that they need to actually avoid some of these problems to begin with. So those are some of the things to think of, is that you can have actually 3 packages for training and troubleshooting, and then give them those options. You might find that someone that is reaching out to you quarterly might actually opt into reaching out to you monthly at this point, and they just didn't even think about it before. But that for you would now increase the value of that client. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling.
Okay, so it's something I struggle with is 50%. There's room for improvement, 44%. I've mastered my message is 6%. And before we get into the final section where you're going to discuss what to do when someone wants to know your hourly rate, I know that you have a free resource. And if you go to confidently answer the what's your hourly rate question, is on www.businesssuccesssolution.com/answer. That's businesssuccesssolution/answer.
Right. Basically, this next section, where I'm going through the 5 steps as to how to confidently answer the hourly rate question and what to be able to do, how to be able to have it be about value as opposed to the technical aspects. I have the whole thing all outlined for you, and it is at businesssuccesssolution.com/answer. The hyperlink is in the chat. If you just want to click on it, you can then go ahead and grab that resource. But Steve, I just wanted to see if anybody else had any other questions before we move forward.
No, I think we're kind of up to date with our questions at this point. So I think we can just go ahead and move forward.
Okay, great.
So what if a person insists on that you give them an hourly rate? How would you respond to that?
Well, I'm going to be a little cheeky and let them know that they're not one of your ideal clients, because you don't want to work with price sensitive people. They're a headache. But if you don't want to be cheeky, then what you can do is let them know that you really work with people. You really need to understand their business and what their needs are before you can actually give them any type of fees, because each of your clients has specific needs. They're all individualized. And what I would suggest is offering a 15-minute consult to be able to meet with them and find out more about what their specific needs are, and let them know that if it's not a fit where you don't believe that you can help them, then you wouldn't even talk about pricing. So let them know that you really determine things based upon each individual's needs, and each of your clients are different, that you will find out about that. If you can help them, then you'll talk about the next step forward, which would be the rates. And if you know that you can't help them, then you just kind of bless them and let them move on. And the other thing about that during the consult is, if you find that there are any red flags where they're not an ideal client, they are asking you questions that just seem to be nitpicking, you have a clue that they might end up being a headache client, you do not need to make an offer for them to continue moving forward with you. I will let you know that if they're showing you that side of them right now in the beginning, during the very first meeting, it doesn't get any better. And I just would like to know in the chat, have you ever had where you had that gut feeling that maybe you shouldn't enroll them, and you enrolled them anyway, and it ended up being a costly mistake? And what was the price that you paid for ending up with one of these clients? So if you could put that in the chat, would love to hear from you as to what you found by enrolling someone that wasn't really a great fit for your services or a great personality match.
So Loren, once you give them that answer, then what's next?
Well, once they go ahead and decide to schedule a meeting with you, what I want you to do is take this from the position as if your car had a ping in the engine and you brought it into your auto mechanic, how would your auto mechanic approach things? Basically, what would happen is that you would go ahead and meet with your auto mechanic. You would describe what's going on. Your auto mechanic would go ahead and assess the situation. They would go ahead and maybe plug some things onto your engine to do a diagnostic. They would then come back to you with this really long laundry list of everything that needs to be done. And then they would discuss the next steps with you, getting permission from you first before moving into actually doing the work. This is really what you want to do also, is when you have that initial consultation, what you want to do is do a quick assessment about what the needs are, what they're looking for, and if you feel that they're a good fit for moving forward with you. Then you want to actually move them into a paid diagnostic. And to be able to look at, and that allows you to then really look at what the needs are very in depth so that you avoid surprises. You can really get a thorough assessment. You can really come back to them with that exact laundry list of what needs to be done in order for them to be able to get insights into their business and get their financials up to date. And then you would be able to discuss those next steps with them, talking about what that next engagement would be. So once again, take the position of your auto mechanic where you're doing an assessment, you're diagnosing what's under the hood, looking at their financials, whether it's QuickBooks, Xero, or some other software that they're using, if they're using any at all. And then you would discuss what the next steps would be from them moving forward. So look at it that way, because this way it then systematizes things. And the other thing about this is it starts to position you as an advisor as opposed to a technician. By having this process in place, you're giving them advisement, you're giving them insights, you're guiding them through this. And therefore, it's raising the bar. You're no longer just a technician, you are now an advisor, and that has higher value when you focus from an advisory piece and lead with that as opposed to just the technical parts. Okay, Margot was saying that she dumped the problem client. It was on site doing their books. She finished too quickly for the rate charge. And this woman jokingly asked me to clean out her refrigerator for the balance of her time. Boy, that takes nerve. I left and never came back. Said I had a new large client and no longer able to service her account. Congratulations on really dumping her, Margot. I was wondering, how long did you hold on to her before you actually let her go? Karen's saying kudos to Margot. And just wondering, Margot, out of curiosity, how long did you have this client before you let her go?
So can I just answer you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I had cleaned up their books, and she's the kind of person that just could not absorb any training. And I had cleaned up the books many times over the years. So I came in and knew the way she was doing things and knew how to clean it up. And she was so shocked that the things that she struggled with that had been trained over and over, that I did it in like 45 minutes. And she was so upset about that. And that's why she said to clean out her refrigerator. And it just wasn't funny. And so when her husband called me to do inventory and also convert them from desktop to QBO for inventory, I just said, no, I wasn't available because neither of them respected what I do.
And how long did you have them before you were ready to fire them? Or how long did you want to fire them for?
Oh, probably a year. I dreaded going there.
Okay, so I just want to acknowledge the fact that you actually did it and you finally let them go. I have talked to people who have tolerated non-ideal clients for many, many, many years, or they still are tolerating them because they don't know how to have that conversation. So Margot, just want to acknowledge the fact that you were able to let them go, and kudos to you. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about those steps as to when someone's asking you what your hourly rate is. The first thing you want to do is decide on, just expect it. Somebody's going to ask you, decide how you want to answer that. because knowing how you want to answer that beforehand is going to give you that sound bite, and that way you won't be caught off guard. What I would suggest is letting them know that you meet with clients for a free 15-minute consultation, and that's when you can hear more about their business. That is the answer that I would suggest giving when they are asking you about your rate. The next thing you want to look at is going ahead and scheduling a conversation with them. If they are asking you about your services, they wanted to know your rate, but you told them that you offer a consultation, and you're right there talking to each other, I would just go ahead and get out your calendars and schedule a time to be able to have that consultation with them right then and there, instead of adding an extra step to it. If this is done by email, then I would suggest, if you don't already have it, get some type of calendar scheduler where you can send them a link to your calendar, and then they can just go ahead and schedule time. You can use Calendly. They have a free version available where it just is connected to your calendar, and then they can see what's available and schedule it on your own. That way it is automating the process, and it's not a back and forth, which can be very, very time consuming. The next thing you want to do is meet with them. And instead of being seen as a technician, I want to encourage you to ask great questions that is finding out more about them. Find out what is going on with them, why they're reaching out to you, what it is that they want to achieve. Why are they doing this now? Because as you know, people tolerate a lot. They're not going to be taking that next step to get their accounting up to date until there's some type of urgency to do so, until they can no longer procrastinate or avoid it. So find out why. There's usually a reason why. Also, really find out what it is that they want to achieve. What is it they're moving forward with? And what would be different if they were able to free up their time and they no longer had to tolerate not having accurate financials or having access to them in real time. So those are some of the top questions that I would think about, instead of just focusing on how many bank accounts, transactions, credit cards that they're using. What I would really look at is asking questions that actually finds out more about them, because this way you're figuring out if they're a great fit personality-wise, as well as what their needs are. The next thing you want to do is be able to share the solution. What are some of the steps that you would take to be able to help them achieve these things that they want to achieve for themselves? Whether it is being able to get rid of a problem that they've been tolerating with for too long, or being able to achieve some type of growth that they're looking for. I would say that when you're focusing on this, what you want to do is really talk more about the outcomes and the benefits of what's possible. What would be different if they no longer had to deal with this? And really focus the majority on that, as opposed to the tasks and the functions and the technical aspects of what you're doing. Because as you know, the majority of your clients don't really understand the financials or the accounting aspects. If you go too deeply into the numbers and the reports and the invoices and all that other stuff, their eyes are going to glaze over, because they don't geek out over it in the same way that you do. Therefore, focus on the outcomes and what would be different if they no longer had this problem, as opposed to the tasks that you would be doing in order to be able to free them from that headache. And then the last thing you want to do, and we've been touching on it already, is to be able to give them options as to how to move forward with you. You want to have that silver option for the basic price sensitive clients. You want to have that gold option for the majority of your clients. And then the diamond would be your premium option for the clients that have more complexities or greater needs or want more access to you. So when you're looking at offering options, I would actually share all three of those options with your clients and then help them decide which one is in their best interest. When you're doing this, then once again, you're coming from the place of being an expert instead of a technician, And by being that trusted advisor, you want to help them make a decision that's in their best interest as opposed to your best interest. The other thing to think about is by giving them the three options, as I said before, our brains need to compare. Now they're thinking about how to work with you. Do I fit into the silver or the gold or the diamond? They're thinking about how to work with you as opposed to when you just give them a singular option and then they make a decision, do I work with you or do I move on to some other alternative? So once again, when you do the packages, they think about how to work with you as opposed to if to work with you or whether to move on to another way of getting their problem solved. When I first started working with Susan, she doesn't really like talking about money. She gets very, very nervous about it. She's had legacy clients where she never raised their rates. Because of that, Susan was working 7 days a week, about 60 hours a week. It was cutting into her family time, her weekends. She believed that customer service was if somebody reached out to her with a text or an email, even if it was after business hours, she would have to stop everything she was doing and immediately respond to them. And as a result of that, she was burned out by the time that we actually met and started talking. So with Susan, we started looking at coming from value. And this is part of what she experienced herself. And being a bookkeeper, she keeps everything on an Excel spreadsheet. But because she was able to start to understand the value that she brought to her clients, becoming more confident with having that enrolling conversation with them by focusing on their needs instead of having to pitch or sell her services, by being able to offer them options so that they had a range of how to work with her, she was actually able to increase her income and decrease her hours. She went down to, I believe, 3 days a week, 20 hours a week work, but she also increased her income by $56,000 for the year. And I just want to bring your attention to cleanup number one. She said that if this client would have come to her before we started working together, she would have charged $1,500 for the cleanup. Because we had a conversation prior to her meeting with the client where we talked about what the value was to the client, how to be able to have that conversation with them. So it was a value conversation instead of a pitch or a sales conversation. And then how to enroll them into the cleanup. She realized that she wanted to price this cleanup project at $7,900. Well, she didn't have the confidence to do it, but she was so burned out that she had the courage to do something that felt like a risk and was stretching her. Plus, she had the step-by-step that I gave her on how to go through this with this new client, that she was able to just follow one step, and then she followed the next step, and then she followed the next. So she had this conversation with them. They said yes to doing the cleanup for $7,900. And because we had already talked about how to be able to get payment for it, they actually paid her before she started the project. Once again, Susan made an additional $6,400 in revenues. She didn't do any additional work, but because of that, that just opened her up to really looking at value and coming from this value position with her business instead of focusing on the tasks and functions and competing on price. Steve, were there any other comments or questions that have come in?
We got a comment from Karen. She says, OMG, Susan is my twin, LOL.
Absolutely. You are moving in the right direction, Karen. So let's go ahead and move forward, Steve.
Sure. So this is what we covered. We looked at the rate question, we looked at what's behind the question, and we went with your confident response. And Loren, I know that you really shared quite a bit today. Now that they can really go ahead and get started, but I think that there are some that would like to get this done and figure it out without doing it on their own. What do you recommend for our listeners who are ready to define a niche and attract high value clients?
Well, if anybody really felt that they resonated in this, they've been thinking about it for a while, they maybe even dabbled in it, but haven't really successfully implemented this into their practice, I'm offering a complimentary Path to Profit strategy session. There's a link in the chat if you want to go ahead and look at that. It's at businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk. I went ahead and put aside 3 strategy sessions because I've done some trainings earlier this week and have already booked out some appointments. It does have a $500 value, but it's a dedicated conversation where we really focus on you, your practice, and what it is that you want to achieve in order to be able to earn more without being a slave to your business. Well, once again, Path to Profit Strategy Session at businesssuccess.com, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk. Would love to be able to hear what you have going on and how to help you earn more without having to work as many hours as you're currently working. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Loved having you here. Kudos for you for taking time away from working in your business to be able to work on your business, getting some advanced trainings, insights to be able to grow your dream practice. Thank you so much. Take care.